Welcome to a Wonder Junkie podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anderson, and if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate the show. That helps people to discover it on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and it's also on Rumble. Enjoy the episode.
Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows. Nobody has the faintest idea. The best guesses are lies. You may be sure of it.
Patrick, thank you for joining me.
It's such a pleasure, Ryan. You probably don't know it, but you're one of my heroes, man.
That's a big statement. Thank you.
I know. I mean, what could be better, right? Like you go into burning buildings, like to help people in the physical world, right? That's like crazy amazing. It takes so much courage. Like I just admire firemen. But then on a bigger picture, like humanity's burning down and you're like getting information out that helps people re-educate themselves and change the way they live. What more could we ask of you? Like thank you for who you be, brother.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. I don't even know what to say other than thank you. I do my best. I'm trying to have a good time on this planet, but while things get crazier, I feel lucky to be able to at least, try to help in a little bit of ways that I can. And there's people doing stuff that I'm like, man, I should be doing a lot more. So it's hard to find the right balance of appreciating what's going on and what you can do in life, while at the same time just appreciating and savoring the life that we have and having a good time while we're here. So we're all doing our best, and you're doing a beautiful job out there as well with what you're doing, which we'll get into today.
Yeah, that's great. I think this is a really important topic we're starting on because so many people get like overwhelmed in their lives and they just don't know how to make a difference. And so, some people like surrender all their power and say, there's going to be a currency revaluation. I'm going to get rich because I'm entitled to it by birthright. I was like, okay, maybe. Like I participated in a little of that. And what I found was it gave me hope, which is truly valuable. But then it might have kept me from like being in action, and I can't stand that. So the combination of being in action and being hopeful for a new world, like I think that's something humans need to know about.
Yeah. No, and stuff like this, podcasts are so cool and important because, people like you, I hadn't been exposed to you till I met Nico, and I hadn't been exposed till Nico until I had heard a podcast from Dr. Jack Kruse quite a few years ago that talked about, quantum biology and sun and all this stuff. And it's like, how amazing to have access to these brilliant minds all over the world. And while I'm doing laundry or doing yard work or hiking a mountain or driving my car, I'm able to meet people truly through hyperspace and learn. And I've been doing that for years. I'm obsessed with learning from other people because we're all looking at reality through such different lenses, and we're all coming with different solutions and seeing different vantage points and doing cool things. I meet different artists and practitioners, and I just love it. So I love this podcast. It gives me the opportunity to meet you through hyperspace and then to go to cool events and do workshops. And then people are making comments and writing me messages, and they're connecting with people like you. So it's like, this is the coolest time to be alive, while at the same time we can recognize the grief and the chaos. And we can get into that because it's important to feel what the hell's going on. I do, surely. But what I use it as a transformation of power to try to help. So I try to use it as a transformative tool to then be like, all right, I still have hope. I'm grateful to be alive. And I know you are too, and Nico is, and all these amazing people in these spaces that I'm meeting. And so we should definitely feel the grief, but at least keep doing the work to keep minimizing suffering and having a cool time into the future.
Yeah, and have a lot of compassion for our brothers and sisters, like our fellow human beings, because I've had moments like 2018, 2019, I went through 2 trials, and one was against my former wife, like fighting for my daughter, and brutal. Like I was like, God, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not going to do it. God's like, you have to. I'm like, no, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to go to court. I don't want to fight in my family. There was no option but to do it. And then the other one was like, this guy stole some money from me. And like, wow, you think money, like stealing money, you can never steal from God. So if you steal from me, God's just going to take it back from me in a different way. And so I was like depressed. I was suicidal 2018, 19, not like actively, but like I would have these thoughts like, God, I really want to be out of here.
Wow.
And and so, people go through stuff like that and we don't even know. But
Yeah.
I was like down to my edge, like one of the things that saved me is like I prayed for a dog. I was like, I will be a foster parent. And so I was like, this dog needs to be healthy on his own because I don't have any money to take care of you. So you better just be healthy because we're not going to the vet. And you need to be like really fun and have a lot of character, and you need to make me laugh because I need help. And
Wow.
I think Blue, which is the dog's name, is as much a soulmate as anybody I've ever met here. And he and I like I take him to all the stores, I take him
Wow.
on all my adventures, and I just talk to him like he's human.
Mm.
So anyway, I needed a dog like that to come in and help me. And a lot of people are going through a lot, and we've been isolated and separated, and we live in these silos without human connection. We don't know how to make friends anymore. And like adulthood is like loss of connection for most people. So
Yeah.
we got to have these dialogues, man, because our species is hurting.
Mm. I agree. Thanks for sharing that. And I actually don't know your story. We've only been able to connect in person briefly twice, and that was awesome. And every time that you and I connect, and Nico and those types of folks, it's like we don't waste time talking about nonsense. We go deep. And you're willing to be vulnerable, and you're very intelligent, and I love what you've done with Wellness Enterprise, and I'd love to get into what you're doing now. But let's give the audience a little bit of an introduction to how the heck you got here, who you are, and a little bit about yourself, because it'll be fun to unpack that, and I'll love to learn it in real time.
There's a couple pieces I'll weave together. Like I'm amazed how life puts the seeds of things in that when you come back around, that then makes sense later. So, like for example, when I was a little kid, I collected coins. Okay, well that exposed me to silver. And when I was 12, I used to go down to the bank and take all the bills I had and change them for quarters and dimes and take them home. And I'd sort through the dates of all the quarters and dimes, and anything that was 1964 or sooner, which was still pretty fairly present in the coin supply in 1982. Um, that quarter went from being worth 25 cents to being worth $2 the moment I found one pre 1964 because it was actually silver. And then later on, like post divorce, I was like broke and I wanted to take my kids on a vacation. I was like, what am I going to do? And silver spiked to $50 an ounce. And I sold my wedding ring and all my silver at $49 an ounce.
Jeez.
And I have like these moments where silver has like been there. And then like now all of a sudden the silver markets are like, maybe silver's the medium of exchange of the future. Who knows, right? But as a consequence of having that thread all the way through there, back when it was languishing around for years, like I put a good pile away. And so I'm ready for that. And like
Mm.
life got me ready. And then another example, like when I was like a drunk college student, right? I was like so drunk. I was the president of the rugby team. Like all I did was like drink beer and like tackle people. And I really wasn't up to very much in my life. But when I would take that empty can and I would put it in the blue recycling bin at the end of the hall, I was like, where does that go? Like no deep thoughts going on in my life. I'm like, where does that go? And then I became the chairman of the recycling committee in my town.
Mm.
And
Cool.
then we spent 2 years working through the bureaucracy, and we put recycling bins on all the street corners, the library, all the prominent places in town. It took 2 years to do that. And I drove around to survey our work, and I felt something I'd never experienced before in my life. This was, I guess the year doesn't really matter. It was in my 30s, and it was heartbreak. And it took like 3 or 4 months for me to figure out I was so sad when I saw the outcome of our project. I was like, why am I so sad? And then I got it. And I went to a meeting and I was like, hey guys, we completely missed the mark. We did the wrong project. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, we gave people recycling bins to feel good about recycling a plastic bottle. We should have given them an education to choose a different type of water that doesn't come in a plastic bottle so they'd never want one again.
Mm.
I'm going to start a project to do that. Who wants to join me? And I put my hand up. Nobody in the room put their hand up. So I took a piece of paper out. I was the chairman of the committee. I took a piece of paper out and I wrote, I resign. And I put it on the table and I walked out. And that became the wellness enterprise,
Wow. How
right?
interesting.
Crazy. Like
Yeah.
these themes are there. And then the biggest one was my career change. I was 18 years a financial advisor. And dude, if you had met me as a financial advisor, I hope you would have like run to the other side of the street. Like I was so competitive. I was so self-oriented. All I wanted was money for myself. I thought I was like the cat's pajamas. And
Hmm.
I was not. I was an unconscious being, is what I was. And so life deeply, deeply humbled me. And I was given like a red carpet walk to go out if I wanted it. Like my partners came to me 11 days before the ambulance came to me and they said, "You're a mess. You need to take a leave of absence." And I was like, "No, I'm staying." And it was purely about money.
Mm.
And 11 days later at 1:30 in the morning, I had to call an ambulance because my kidneys hurt so much.
Jeez.
Right? And I remember being on the ride to the hospital, and I called my mom. She lives in California, so she's on a little different, earlier time zone. And she's like, "Well, how bad's the pain?" And I was like, "Well, if you're like in the Roman Colosseum and the lion is eating your arm and you're watching him eat your arm, that's a 10. Like this is like an 8. Like it really hurts really
Yeah.
bad." And the doctor the next day was like, "You're so lucky." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I took scans of your body and you're just stressed. Whatever you're doing in your life, you need to stop it." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So that caused a career change, and I would say that that's life, God, creator, water, like the force that's bigger than any one of us
Mm-hmm.
that shapes us. There was no way I was going to stay a financial advisor for this life. So in 2010, so 16 years ago now, I was ripped out of my money life. And so I mean, it's quite a story. Like I went from, you know, coming from a good family, so at least I wasn't in debt, like thank God, but I made 5 million bucks by the time I was 38.
Damn.
And that's a like the older I get, the more I'm like, "No, that was pretty good. And the year I turned 30, that year alone, I made 1 million bucks, and then I lost most of it. Like divorce takes half, and anger quickly takes more if you don't have your emotions right in the stock market, and
Mm.
and then not having an income will bleed it right out of you. So I had enough to career transition, but not enough to stay wealthy. So I had to make it again. And what I learned along the way is that actually, like, there was a day for my 35th birthday that I gave myself a Porsche Cayenne with my initials on the license plate. And I remember the day so well because I woke up with fear in my heart, fear that I'm not enough, fear that I'm unworthy. And I got that car and I was still fearful. And I was like, "Dude, you won the American dream and you're miserable."
Hmm.
And so I learned that money doesn't make me happy, like literally. And so it's interesting. Like I watch ambitious men who want to provide for their families, and I like try to form business partnerships with them and do things with them, and like that drive, what they'll give away of their soul for that drive to get. You just have to let them exhaust it out on their own.
Yeah.
But the people who know that money doesn't make them happy, they have a greater perspective to understand that there are other things that do. And so, the other day I went for a walk with that beloved dog of mine, that soulmate of mine, as we walk every morning. And I go every day, and there are these avocados on these trees on Maui. And I pretty much 365 days a year get free avocados. I used to go out with a picker and pull them down, but now I've learned the ripe ones just fall. So all you have to do is walk every day and you pick up the ones that fell in the last 24 hours. I got over 100 avocados because the wind was blowing last week. And like
Cool.
everywhere I'm going, I'm like giving people 6 or 10 avocados. I'm thinking about getting a T-shirt that says "Avocados are my love language." And
Awesome.
so, you put all the pieces together, and it was really the failure of my marriage and the career change that I would say like just ran a dagger through the heart of that competitive guy and that
Mm.
money oriented beast that I was, and just humbled me so deeply. And so I consider that I was born 18 years ago. That's when my marriage ended. Like, that's when I get to start becoming me.
Mm.
And so now, like, my story is I'm an infinite being, I'm eternal. This world is temporary, and I can't take anything in it from me except possibly the advancement of my vibration or frequency. And so I see the world from a oneness perspective. And if I help you have a breakthrough, or help one of our listeners have a breakthrough, or help somebody I meet on my avocado walk have a breakthrough, just by giving somebody an avocado, it might be as simple as that. Whatever it is, if I can be kind and connected and loving, then maybe I help make a difference in this world. Maybe we become a better species because I'm not trapped thinking about the 3D stuff and what can I get for myself. I'm thinking about the values that I can build up over time. So,
Beautiful. I'd love to unpack a little bit. Thanks for sharing a lot of that scaffolding of how you became who you are. When that happened and you sort of, what you could say, rock bottom, or that transformational period of your life, to get to the place where you see yourself as an infinite being and had made peace with death, and you reoriented and found different belief systems, and you realize everything's one, all that beautiful stuff doesn't come at ease. And it takes courage to unlearn everything that culture taught you and your family and your programming, and to go your own path, which is the rebirthing process, or being born again. A lot of people say that's what Christ consciousness is to, you know, that the story runs a track through human history, and that's the hero's journey, if you will. So I'd love to hear, like, what did you discover that helped you to realize all this stuff? There was a lot of practices or experiences that you had to go through.
oh man, so good. Such a good question. So, I think where I'll start with that is one of the pieces that was caught the end of the financial advisory and the beginning of the water together is I got introduced to Kangen water, and I was all about it. Like, alkaline water, the story really makes sense. If people know Kangen, or if they come in contact with it, and Kangen is like a name for the whole alkaline water industry. And it's the type of alkalinity that's created by using electricity on a plate that shocks water into two streams. And it creates, in my opinion, an artificial, man-made therapeutic water, which has some
Hmm.
benefits. So there's people out there, I think primarily identified in their minds, telling the story of like, this is why you got to get Kangen. And there's people who would have died without it, whose lives were saved. And so the testimonies they're passionate and powerful. And I was like into it, you know?
Hmm.
So I was really acidic. I mean, you can imagine where I was in my career transition. I was a mess on all levels. My spine was literally twisted from what I
Wow.
experienced in the stock market. So my acidity was off. And I started drinking alkaline water. And the concept I came up to explain this is like a seesaw. So I was really acidic. So I put alkaline water up on the top part of the seesaw, and I evened out. And when I got to even, I met this nutritionist, and I told her how excited I was about alkaline water. She's like, you know about alkalosis, right? And I was like, no. She's like, well, my best friend just died. And he died from drinking too much alkaline water and becoming alkaline. I was like,
Hmm.
oh crap. And so that like came to me. I didn't go searching for it. It just like came to me. And then the other thing that came to me was this guy who cleans the plates inside the Kangen machines. He's like, yeah, I'm an authorized like cleaner for Kangen. People ship their machines into me. If you saw the metal that was on those plates, you would never drink another ounce of that water again. And I was like,
Wow.
oh,
Like,
crap.
in what way? Tell me about that.
Well, if you think about it, you're like creating electricity to
Hmm.
shock water, and the quality of those plates is made. I'm not much of a materials guy, but he told me, I just don't remember. But
Sure.
the type of material that was there degraded viciously over time, and so the leaching that was happening into the water was severe. And
Wow.
I also had my own doubts because, like, I would do Kangen presentations, and one of the things you do in a Kangen presentation is you put some water out and you put some chlorine reagent drops in it to show that the filter works, that there's no chlorine in the water. And I ended up leaving the glass after one of my presentations, and it took a long time, but it turned yellow. And I was like, there's chlorine in that water. Like, I don't know why it didn't turn instantly, but it did over time. And then I started to question the filters, and I was like, wow, these filters aren't really that good. Like, part of why some people do, pre-filters in that time. So anyway, during that part of that journey, I was like pretty into it. In fact, I thought it was my career. I thought it was my savior, because when I stopped being a financial advisor, like I said, I was in an ambulance. It was pretty abrupt. And the thing I was most passionate about in my life was this water bottle project that I had going on. So I was like, well, I've always just been super successful, so I'll just shift my focus to water and I'll just have a 6-figure income. That's how I thought it would go. And so I anticipated I would sell 100 Kangen water machines in a year. And I sold 100 in a month was my expectation. I sold 11 in a year. And I was like, all right, like, I don't understand. I've been successful in everything I've ever marketed in my life. Why am I not being successful with this? So I went to a workshop. This is the beginning of like one of those things, My friend Hope Fitzgerald, she has the Wave Energy Center for Conscious Evolution, and she teaches a channeled energetic tool called the Infinity Wave. And I went for a multi-day workshop, and while I was there, she was my first customer for a structured water device. And she brought in, and when she bought it, I called her. I was like, we've known each other since the 1970s. I was like, I found this thing. I don't know how to talk about it. I'm not even really sure what it does, but like, you're a good dowser. Like, could you just ask your higher guidance if you're supposed to have one? And if you say yes, I'll give you an unlimited money back guarantee. And she's like, yeah, I'm supposed to have one. Okay, cool. So she bought like that. So over lunch, she brings it out, and there's 11 people in her workshop, and 5 of them bought devices because she brought it out over lunch. And I was like, okay, 11 in a year, 5 at a lunch while being a participant. You caught my attention. What are we doing here? So I started to be open, and that's the first thing, right? Is you got to be open. Meanwhile, back at home, I've got my alkaline water on the kitchen counter, and I've got a structured water device on my shower. I didn't even buy one for drinking when I started out. And I'm just showering in the water for a few months. And one day I wake up and it's like, you'll drink the water from your shower now. And I'm like, all right, how's that going to work? So I took the shower head off, but left the device on. And I took this pitcher up to the shower and I filled it up and I started drinking. And I was like, oh, that's good. And so one of the things I learned in that time period is that your water election for your life isn't permanent. Like, we go through stages, and the water is part of your consciousness. Like, during the years where I was the financial advisor and sick and a whole bunch of things, I drank RO water. So here I was now in the alkaline water, and now water was telling me I was going to drink structured water. I'm like, all right. At the end of the workshop, Hope gave me a homework assignment. She's like, I want you to talk to water. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you want me to talk to water? Like, I don't get it. Like, okay, I'll talk to water. So I live right by the beach, and I was pretty moody and not that on top of my emotions. And so stuff would come up, I'd get upset, and then I need to move. Like, movement's how I get things out. So I go walking down at the beach, and I remember this day I'm supposed to talk to water. And I'm like heavy-hearted, like, woe is me, going through this question, whatever it was at the time. And I'm like, all right, water. And like, I look out to the ocean and I'm like, talk to me. And this wave breaks at the right and left side, and the two sides come together and they meet in the middle of the same wave. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to take the middle ground, huh? And it was like so obvious that was the message. And there started a dialogue with water. And I just love how that dialogue has advanced over time. Like, one of the things I learned next was long tone balancing of your chakras. So I would walk down to the edge of the ocean, particularly if I was in a mood. I'd put my feet in sometimes the very cold water, like a little bit of that Wim Hof influence, right? Just a touch. And and I would long tone to balance my chakras. And like I would get this flood of creativity, and I'd be like running back up to the house to grab a keyboard and write all the ideas down that were coming through. And then over time I learned, like, it's okay, you can walk, like it's infinite. Right? And so I started to have, Ryan, these satisfying experiences of like comfort and alignment and feeling right. And I mean, I don't know how you grow and expand without just saying, I'm open, and then letting what happens count. You
That's
just,
beautiful.
right? You just let it count. And then there's just like one more part of it I want to share until get the ball back to you, which is sometimes as I was trying to figure things out back then, like my loyalty in starting this business is to the people who would buy things from us. Like after 15 years in business, we now call ourselves the company that loves you. We love people. And so we want people to love doing business with us. And so my loyalty is to them. It's not to technology. And so over time, I've been willing to shift what I believe is the best solution if new information comes in. Like if I'm supposed to know something, then life like knocks on the door and it comes in. And so back in 2013, 14, 15, 16, I didn't have a mentor with those same values. I didn't have somebody to turn to and be like, can you tell me how this works? Because most people who were advanced in structured water back then were selling their own device. And they're like, well, I'll tell you what's great about my device. I'm like, no, that's not my question. Like, my question is like how this all works and like what the variations are and why would we emphasize one or another? Like, why would I put my life force in alignment with your technology is really what I want to know.
Mm.
And so I learned that I would like, I mean, I take this stuff, particularly back then, like really seriously. It's like, I don't know what else to do with my life, Ryan. Like God made me to like really care. So I'd get like worked up about something. And then as bedtime would approach, I'd be like, wait, man, like I can't stay this stressed. Like I have to unwind here. And so at bedtime, I would say, okay, I've done my best today. This is like me sometimes out loud at the side of my bed in a room by myself. This is pre-dog, right? And I'm like, all right, water, like I give this to you. Like I'm going to sleep and I am going to sleep peacefully. And you work on this while I sleep. And when I wake up in the morning, just show me what's clear, show me truth so I know what to put my focus on. And I'd wake up in the morning and I would be like so fired up because blocks that I couldn't move were just like boom, 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 boom. Like, for example, I had a dream one night where numbers became shapes, became matter. And I was like, oh, that's how sacred geometry works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, boom, all of a sudden I understand. And it's just there. And, you hear people talk about sacred geometry as like the building block of the universe. And then, bam, it gets delivered in the dream that's really concrete. And it's like, okay, I can do it. So I learned to have water be my ally, and that has stayed. And so now when things are like perplexing to me, I'm like, all right, water, here's the focus. Like, I'm going to go do something else, and you clarify it and show me. And things just come up. So,
That's beautiful. I can
yeah.
imagine there's going to be people that are listening that have never heard of structured water and heard of, Gerald Pollack and Gilbert Ling and Veda Austin. They haven't heard any of this. And I remember as I started to delve into the water thing, it was years ago, but then it sort of came back through Gerald Pollack and him with his fourth phase water book. And then I had him on the podcast. But then I discovered Veda Austin and started to look at her imagery of what she's discovered with water. And so I would love for you, as someone who's obsessed with water, and you seem to communicate with it almost as your deity, which is interesting. And people would be like, well, why would you do that? Well, it's because you have this deep insight. And I can understand where you're coming from to a degree because of what I've seen through those other characters and their books and their languaging that helped me to have that internalization of the fact that we are water and energy and like even fascia and all of that stuff when you think about my obsession with sunlight and natural light and though I can't be in it right now, I'm bathing in incandescent bulbs and wearing blue blockers. It's like, why do all this shit? Well, it's because at the core, we're like starting to understand biophysiology, and what we are is electromagnetism. We are like vibrational beings. And so I'd love for you to just start to describe who were some of the people that helped you to gain this insight, and then start to give the insight to others through the words I'm trying to share, so that people can understand, why the heck is this guy obsessed with water, and why are these people talking about water for a fucking hour? Well, it's one of the coolest subjects. I mean, it's like you could talk about it for 5 hours. I've heard you talk about water and blow my mind, and I've heard Nico do it. And so I love the water people, and I love the mushroom people, the mycelium people. There's all these, like, I love the cosmos people, the people that break down space, and the biology people like Michael Levin. So people that get obsessed with subjects like yourself, I love it. Let's give the audience an understanding, why the heck water?
Yeah. I'm going to start with like the most fun one and then go back in my story. So the most fun one is Veda Austin, right? She is so pretty and playful and brilliant. And everybody just wants to listen to Veda Austin right now. So if you don't know who we're talking about, guys, look up Veda, Veda Austin, and look at her work.
Yeah.
She's extraordinary. And, I'll give you some examples of her work. So she's sitting and she develops this technique for freezing water and seeing what's being communicated. So she's sitting in a cafe and she sees a water bowl and she sees a schnauzer go up to the water bowl and drink from it. And she's like, I wonder. So she gets a drop of the water, she takes it home, she freezes it, and what appears in her petri dish is a schnauzer. And she's like, oh my God, like that's like mind blowing, right? So she's done, is it tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of these things now? And, examples of like what she's done is she like put a sunflower seed in water and the petri dish comes back with a sunflower. And so she's super creative. And I'm talking about somebody who's like tuned in to the story of water. Like she is really having a dialogue with water. And now she's been working with autists, like children with autism. And
Mm-hmm.
it has blown her wide open. And she is now touring the world and going to conferences and speaking. And she's just phenomenal. So if you guys want to have fun learning about this, go watch Veda Austin interviews and stuff. She's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And she stands on the shoulders of the one that started for me. And this is one of those funny things, like the blue bins with the drunk guy throwing a beer can in it. Like about, I'm going to mess up my years now. My timelines are messing up. But prior to becoming, having a career in the water industry, I was still a financial advisor. And I went to give my mom a Christmas present one year. And I bought her a deck of cards that had water crystals from Dr. Masaru Emoto on the cards. And I had no idea what I was doing, right? It was just like, well, this is nice. Like mom likes pretty photographs. My mom likes to photograph flowers and different landscapes and things. So I'm like, this is pretty. I'll give this to mom. And so years later, Dr. Emoto started to come into my focus. And he wrote this book called The Hidden Messages in Water. And he was, I think, the one that really started a tangible, visible dialogue between humans and water. And that book, The Hidden Messages in Water, is a New York Times bestseller. Like everybody could get a bestseller these days. My book's a bestseller on Amazon, but I got to tell you, the game's rigged. It's pretty easy to get that distinction. His is a New York Times bestseller, and it's a big time important book. In fact, I used to buy them hundreds at a time from the publisher and ship them out as a gift with purchase when people bought a structured water device from me, because I thought his work was so important and deserved to be spread. So Dr. Emoto kind of opened the door, and then places like the University of Stuttgart have kept going in doing the research, and there is a wide body of knowledge now about water and consciousness. And our current product is called the Aqua Energizer, and it's been shockingly difficult to mature the product. Like getting a high quality, high vibration product from existence to actually having enough quantity to meet demand and then exceed it and to be able to grow the business is taken 6 years. And along the way, one of my ultimate goals was that we would get our water tested by Dr. Emoto's son. Dr. Emoto himself passed in 2014. And his son, Hiro Emoto, continues the Emoto Institute in Japan, and they continue to test water with those type of crystals. And so I'm delighted to share, just in the last couple of weeks, like 2 weeks ago, we got our folder back from Dr. Emoto's son with the photographs of what the Aqua Energizer creates in water. And it was a really big day for me because Dr. Emoto's, if you guys Google Emoto, like there's photos all over the internet about influencing water with the word love. Like they'll tape water on a bottle, and they will take a water crystal from there, and then they'll play heavy metal music, and they'll take a water crystal from there, and they'll take city water and spring water and all the different words and things. And I have always said that the Aqua Energizer, under my leadership, carries the resonance of loving unity, because that's what I care the most about. Like, as a human with a creative life force, what I most want to imbue into your water is the feelings of love and unity. Like, think of it like, imagine a body filled with Coca-Cola, right? And then that has a vibration. And then we take that Coca-Cola out and we fill that body with living water that has been patterned by nature, and the aliveness that happens in a being when we're filled with natural water. So my thought is, if each person can reclaim their relationship with their inner water, then we can reclaim our species through this dialogue with water, because people will start being their natural selves. So having the Aqua Energizer imbued with loving unity is really, really important to me. And our water photograph looks most similar to the word peace as published by Dr. Emoto's work. That's what the water that came through the Aqua Energizer looks like. So I love the water photographs. And then, there's a whole another line of like scientists that have been involved in the bringing forth of the structured water industry. It really goes back to its origin with Victor Schauberger, and he was one of the first people I read about. And what I loved about his work and what drew me in is this idea of like, study nature and then emulate it. And this is 120 years ago that this guy was doing it. And so in studying nature, he noticed that the vortex was really important. And so he was logging. He was moving these huge logs downstream, and he realized if he spun them, that they would move much more easily than if they weren't spinning. And thus began the structured water industry, like the awareness of it. And so it's got kind of an interesting path, because our education system is really controlled. It's run by agendas from people who don't have learning at heart. And so people are, the easiest way to show you the outcome of our education system is go to a restaurant and listen to people order their drinks. And they'll say, I'll have a martini, I'll have a double Manhattan, all the things that they'll say. And then if somebody at the table orders water, they'll say, I'll have just water. Like, so many people order water that way. Just water. I'm like, the elixir that you're designed to run on to be a multidimensional being is just water? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's how we talk about water. We don't like honor it and like have reference for it. Like, just water. As though like we owe an apology to the server for just getting a glass of water, rather than like an honoring of ourselves. Like, yeah, man, I'll have some of the stuff that God made me to run on. Like, give me some of that. So what happens is, the story that gets told in school is that water is H2O, and everybody thinks they know what water is, and we don't know what water is. I actually would say that we only learn what water is when water chooses to reveal to us what we're ready for. Like in the same way, I was like reverse osmosis, alkaline water, structured water, different types of structured water. Everybody's a vibrational match, and we're a vibrational match as a species. So, I've spent so much time just thinking about water, and I have these observations. Like, I inadvertently spilled a little bit of water on my counter 12 years ago or something. And I noticed that it disappeared. And I was like, huh. And then I thought about that deeply, and I was like, the water disappeared. Where'd it go? Oh, it rejoined the hydrological cycle. I'm like, the rule of water is unity. It's oneness. Like, you can't separate water because eventually it will always rejoin itself. And so the scientists like Jacques Benveniste and Luc Montagnier and Wolfgang Ludwig, who have discoveries about, for example, toxicity, and that you can remove 100% of a physical substance from water and still have the energetic signature of that substance in the water, still have the properties of that substance. So it's gone according to our science, but it's still there according to truth and actual observation. And when people publish science like this, their labs get destroyed, they get discredited, they get attacked. Like, how crazy is that, Ryan? Like, these are the people on the cutting edge. Like, how about we give people the opportunity to contemplate what they think is true about it? So back in 2013, I love marrying these insights to like what happens in the real world. My voice got carried around the world, and all of a sudden my phone is ringing off the hook from all these different countries. And I got to have the privilege. I'm a very hands-on CEO and founder. Like, I love talking to people about water. So they call and I'm like, yeah, tell me about it. Like, what's going on in your life? And I started to see the theme. Every person who shows up who didn't know about structured water prior to our conversation can only ask a question from the vocabulary that they have in their head. And no matter where they live in their world, their vocabulary is fear, removal of things using chemistry to make correct water. And again, the deep thinking, I'm like, if I believe in oneness, which is a rule of the universe as far as I can tell, then when I removed something from something, like I take chlorine out of water, where would the thing I removed go? If it, like, does it have a different oneness that it participates in? And that's when I started to understand that the chlorine that's in that water is just a man-made concentration. That's all it is. The chlorine came from the earth, but man concentrated it so much as to make it toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, over time, I started to understand that the most important thing that keeps us suppressed is the fear. And so if they can keep everyone in a dialogue, fearing what's in their water, essentially, I mean, I know it's a stretch for most people to think like this. Essentially, they have us turning on ourselves at a level, right? Like, we're afraid of that which we're made of.
Mm-hmm.
And so over time, I think we have to shift the water dialogue, and we have to put first the energetics of the water and put second the chemistry of the water. So I think there's 3 reasons to choose a chemistry-based filter, which are smell, taste, and confidence. If your water smells or tastes bad, you will not drink enough to be properly hydrated. And if you fear it, you will not also drink enough. So smell, taste, and confidence. If you're there, get a filter to handle that. But if you want to have a live water, then you need to deal with the energetics of the water. And that's what these scientists have been showing us through electromagnetic experiments and through homeopathy type experiments, is that it's the energetics of the water that matters the most. And so you stack all that up, Ryan, and that's where I've ended up. It's like energetics first, physical world second. And then I get really satisfied by water now. So I feel like I've landed in the right place.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I'd love to go into the details of what you created here with this Aqua Energizer that I have and how you make how you even make the device, what it is composed of, how you came up with the design and why. All of that stuff I want to get into. And even the cosmic tower behind me. It's something so fascinating when I got to hear about that. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about that for the audience too. Um, but really quickly, also, you were talking about fear. And I think one of the things that happens with people with all modalities, whether it be the sun, like you talked about the centralized medical model and how everything has this solution for a symptom. We've got sunscreen or we've got vitamin D, or but then the sun is bad and you better block the sun and you better wear sunglasses. And this is a hard thing for just good humans on the planet that are busy raising kids and living their lives to unlearn. And that's something I've really come to realize, is that once you implant an idea with an emotional response of fear, which is what they use for the marketing and the mind control,
Yeah.
without getting super grand conspiratorial, it's just like, if you just basically look at the assumption of, I want to sell you a product, so here's some fear behind it, it works. Because every morning, if I go out for a hike or a bike ride or a walk, everybody's got sunglasses on. And it, to me, is like the equivalent of blocking your mouth with tape when you're trying to get a drink of water from the fountain.
Yeah.
And you're just, all of the light that could be entering your eyes, and how important sunlight is in this conversation with water. But then I've met people though that can transcend all of that, sunglasses, weird modern city life with all the chaos. We could get into like the detriments of our environment, but then you go to a centenarian perspective. I love to bring this up because when you look at people that lived to be over 100 that went through the Great Depression, and they went through all this chaos and hard times where it was actually really hard. There was no conversations about this amazing water and meditation and mindfulness for a lot of these people. They had meaning, and they seemed to have some sort of relationship to something higher than themselves. So there was like a faith in there, and their first component to it always seemed to be gratitude. And so I feel like if you have water, whether it stinks or doesn't stink, or the fact that you're in the desert like I am right now in 2026, and I have access to water, and somebody hands it to me on a fire ground after I'm like in there just working my ass off, and I come out and I don't have my little water aqua thing, but someone hands me a plastic bottle of water, which is like, I don't drink out of plastic water bottles, but I'm going to on this call, and I'm going to be grateful, and it's actually going to go into my body, and it's going to provide some value for this time being. And I don't have to do that on a regular basis. Thank goodness I have water that I carry in my own thermos. But I like to bring this up though, because the average person will approach this subject, they're going to be overwhelmed and be like, oh my God, I got to pay all this money and get structured water and filters and this and that. And that's actually the worst response when you start entering the realm of quantum biology and health and wellness and yoga and breath work, is like, just relax. Be grateful for the fact that you're breathing and that you're alive and you're awake and you're aware, and that there is water and that you are flying through space and that you are going to die soon. How cool is that? Like, if we don't come first with that response, then there's fear around the constant perpetual seeking. And I know you've seen this, especially when you get into the arenas of spiritual seeking. And I love these people. I love everybody, really. And it's like, but I also see the centenarian guy that's 112 years old. He goes, I ate Campbell soup every day. Every day I drank whiskey, I drank coffee, and I was happy. And he was grateful. And so I always like to bring the humility down to that level. And then we can shoot it back into why the significance of all this stuff, if we are so lucky to live in a time and a place where we can do so. But I always like to really get down to the triage of it and be like, but you should be grateful for the fact that you have any water at all and that you're alive. And that will be the best way to approach this.
I love this topic. Like, this is near and dear. I had irritable bowel syndrome for 8 years, and I don't know how many years I had Lyme disease for, but enough. I basically raised my kids. So, 23 years of parenting before we were like done in that house, and with that stage of life, I was sore the whole time. And I went through it all, man. Like 1999, I remember being in a restaurant, and like I'm gluten free and dairy free, and I'm ordering, and the woman's just like not paying attention, and I had learned like this can hurt me, and so I was a little bit dramatic at the time, you know, and I was like, hey, it doesn't look like you're really paying attention to my order. Let me just like catch your attention for a second. If you give me an ingredient that I tell you not to give me, a fucking ambulance is going to pull up outside and you're going to feel really shitty. You're going to have a bad day when I get taken out in an ambulance. So it's really important to me that you don't bring me any wheat or dairy on this plate. Do you understand? Like, oh, sorry, sir. Like, yeah, I'll get that for you. So like, that's where I was at. Cause it hurt, you know, if I went the wrong direction back then. So no wheat, no dairy for a while. Then like I met this like really famous naturopath, and he was like, I can teach you how many ounces of what foods you can eat in combination with whatever foods. A year from now, you will have perfect digestion. Went through that. Then I got to the hydration piece. And then throughout, I had the movement piece, like how I move my body. And, I actually model the four pillars I'm talking about after Dr. Ben Egwarts. He's a functional medicine practitioner in Lubbock, Texas. And he's like, it's your nutrition, hydration, movement, and then peace. And so I had the good fortune to work with Dr. Ben's practice for a while in 2021. And I became his business strategist. He became my doc. And I was like, all right, Ben, I've been doing everything you've told me for the last year. Like, I went from like, I don't eat meat to I make broth every Saturday and I eat meat 6 days a week. And I'm doing all the minerals and all the supplements and I'm getting better, but I don't feel the way I want to feel yet. He's like, I was like, why? Like, just tell me, like, we're friends. Just tell me, like, why can't I get it? And he said, it's your non-relationship with Jesus. And I was like, okay, it's my non-relationship with Jesus. All right. So I went on a road trip. I thought I went on a road trip to fix my manufacturing, but I actually went on a road trip to begin to understand my nervous system. And I'm on this road trip. I'm driving from Texas to California, a lot of time in the pickup truck, and I'm in a lot of pain. And it got so bad that I like when I was staying in a place in California and I like went to Monterey for the weekend. And when I got there, I've never been a THC, CBD, any of that kind of stuff. I went and found a store and I got some stuff to help me with the pain in my leg. And I went and I took it and my leg hurt all night. It didn't stop the pain. And so the next morning I'm sitting in a bathtub in Monterey, California, and I am going to go to a church and pray to Jesus. And I was like, fuck that. I'm going to pray right now, sitting in this bathtub right here, right now. And so I pray to Jesus and I leave there. I go to the beach and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to leave Monterey. Pack the truck up, drive to Santa Cruz. Get to Santa Cruz, park my pickup kind of awkwardly where my front wheels are like up on a curb, kind of thing you only do in a pickup truck. You wouldn't do it in a Civic, right? And there's a really wide sidewalk and I've taken like 20% of it with the hood of my car and I have my windows open. I'm on the phone and these people are like rollerblading and biking down and multiple of them call me a fucking asshole for the way I've parked. And I'm like, damn, like I'm not in the right place. So I got to leave here. Like, where am I going? And I'm like, I really want to go up that road. I'm like, all right, well, where's it go? It goes to San Jose. I don't want to go to San Jose. Well, I want to go up that road. So I go up the road and I get to San Jose and I find a room and get a hotel room. And then there's like, I don't watch basketball. And there's like basketball playoffs going on. And I'm like, I'm in so much pain. So I take one of the gummies and I go down to a bar and I have 4 drinks, which for me is like Smash City, you know? And it's like 9:30 p.m. and I'm high and for me drunk. And I come out of that place and I start walking. This is during COVID, right? And I start walking toward where there seems to be some people. And I find this like Central Market kind of thing. And I see insomnia cookies. And I'm like, I'm going there. And I'm like walking toward Insomnia Cookies, and these two men come up to me and they say, "Would it be okay if we pray for you in the name of Jesus?" And I like start crying, and I'm like, "Yeah, it'd be okay." And like my leg really hurts. Like, we put your hand on my leg and we pray for me? And they're like, "Yeah, we'll pray for you." So I had this experience with the guys. I go home, I go to sleep, and I wake up the next morning, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Sunday morning, and I'm in San Jose. The Calvary Chapel is here. Like, that's where RFK spoke recently. Like, I'm going to church." So I arrange for a late checkout. I go to church. The end of church is coming around, and they ask, like, who's new here today, and how many people would like everybody here to pray for them in Jesus' name. I'm like, me. So, really long story short, in 36 hours, I have 4 instances with Christ consciousness. I get offered 2 more Bibles and made a soccer player named Jesus. And I'm like, okay, Christ consciousness is real, undoubtedly. And my friends back in Lubbock, Texas, they live, breathe, and are Christ consciousness. And when I hear the testimony of Jesus Christ on their lips, I give so much thanks for the way they tell the story. My leg didn't get better. I was like, okay, it helped and I became more peaceful, but it didn't go all the way. So Jesus is the answer for some people, but not for me. And I still give deep thanks for Christ consciousness and for those people. But there has to be more for me. And so I kept going on that peace pillar that for some people ends with Jesus. And I found this year that it's stress. And I found a Navy SEAL who does one-on-one coaching, very high-end coaching in Los Angeles. And I flew there and I spent the week with him. And on Thursday and Friday, I'm lying on the floor and he is walking the trauma out of my legs. So he is standing on my calves and hamstrings, alternating, and then going to the other side for 5 hours over 2 days. And I'm just crying, and all the memories are coming up, and all this stored stuff in my tissues. And he finally says, "All right, sit up." I'm like, "Okay." He says, "What's the conversation you've never had with your mother?" And I was like, "Oh, I know the one." He says, "Your tissues aren't going to release until you have that conversation. Go call your mom. Hey, mom, remember when I moved out of your house in 1983 and we never talked about it? We need to talk about it because it's still stored in my body." And she hung in there like a champ, and she listened to what I had to say. And this was just 3 months ago. And God, I've never loved my mom more than I do now. I really adore my mom, and I like call her every couple of days. And like we just hang out and pal around a lot, and video calls and phone calls. And like as all that got resolved, like all of a sudden, all these new women are in my life. They're deep and grounded and nurturing and caring, and have friends who are just like, I don't know where they came, like out of the woodwork. There they are. And so our body does keep score, and there are forces that are miraculous that contribute to our healing. And I give thanks for like every little bit of it along the way. And I'm now currently this Navy SEAL, like he's like, I never give people more than 10 reps of this exercise to release their bodies. I'm giving you 50. And so I've been doing 50 reps of these 2 exercises daily since the second week of December. And I am doing so well. Like I am really physically vigorous right now. I can like work out for multiple hours and like really, really have fun. And my hips still not 100% released, but if I can win a pickleball tournament, I'm probably active enough that like I feel good. So yeah, I just think this journey is miraculous, and the biggest thing is like staying open to how it wants to heal in you, because my story is only there as a like catalyst for somebody else to know their story. Like I don't I barely know myself. What can I say about knowing somebody else? But I can say like staying open and being open to how creator wants you to heal and then having the courage to face it. That's your path.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I I love how you said you didn't stop there at the Jesus part and you kept going, and that you're going to keep going. It's like you keep learning and finding out who you are and how you operate, and I'm like that too. I like to just think of curiosity as the life force that children have that gets sort of stomped out through the school system or through our culture, but it leads to an infinite path of discovery, and it leads to new friendships and new lands and new insights. And I think curiosity and wonder truly are the essence of the human story. And to shut that off and to cling to something is I think, the stopping of our life force energy. It's ideology, and it creates, righteousness and tribalism and division. And I feel like, there's an evolutionary reason that we have that righteousness, if you will, but we almost have to work diligently against it and to remain open, to continue learning, expanding, and then unlearning and letting go. And letting go is probably harder than taking in more, and continually seeking. And for me, it's been breath work and simple things like that, where you can use the breath to let go and use the breath in the sunlight. And it's all natural, free stuff. So for me, I don't have to go to church ever again, not to knock anyone who does, but I found it on the mountaintop, or, on the hillside, or by the waterfall, or by the creek. And, you just get still and connect with the land and the breath and nature, which is what we are. And all of a sudden you have access, I think, to your ancestry and to whatever the intelligent thing is that you're a part of that's not separate. So, anyway, I love that you talked about that, how you didn't stop there and you're remaining open. And, I think that's huge. I'd love to ask you now about this Aqua Energizer and how you created it, how you got the source material, what it does, and why you're passionate about it.
Yeah. So the original design actually belonged to a guy who is a like extraordinary scientist. He's a cosmic being, and as much as he is um, just pulling through information from other dimensions, he's also polarized and has a tremendous downside to his personality as well. So, things like drug use and incarceration and, those things are part of his life. And so the actual mechanics to get the first version of it weren't mine. And we worked together for as long as we could. And he just simultaneously creates and destroys. And so at one point we had 7 people working together, all carrying this mission. And then he had to blow us up from the inside out, and so that has curtailed our process along the way. But what we did was we realized that we had to purify the energetics of the device, and so I organized a team of 6 people who measure subtle energy, and I asked them to enter a dialogue with me. They were all volunteers, by the way. They did it for their love of water and for their desire that the world have the best water device. And so we examined like how long is this device and what is the quality of the copper that we use and how do we pull it together and how do we give it the highest vibration. And so what we discovered along the way is can you see into the funnel there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that screen? So when
Mm-hmm.
we put that screen in, we got rid of 95% of the solder. Pretty cool. And when we got rid of 95% of the solder, we went to an all silver instead of a lead free solder, which was cool. That's a nice upgrade vibrationally. But it actually turns out it's when we changed the shape of it that we got the biggest improvement in measurements because sacred geometry is such a creative force. And so we have attuned this device to have the highest grade copper, to have crystals that are specifically sourced from Brazil, to build a mechanism for shaping the crystals into the size and shape that we need to a very tight tolerance every single time so that we get a consistency of our product. And that was one of the big things, is that in the early stage they were handmade, and sometimes you'd have like a big load of solder like coming out, and each one has continued to be different even though we've made it more consistent now. So we had this team working with a manufacturer who's like, he's like your grandpa, he's like, I just like making stuff, and he's been making stuff for like 50 years, and he has like an open mind. He's a traditional scientist, so like telling him that we can change the energy of water with copper crystals and minerals, he's like, yeah, I don't know, but I'll make you what you want. And then over time, he's like, wait a minute, this is amazing. So it's fun to take guys who think traditionally and support them to have breakthroughs in these type of things. So we've refined our process, and as we refined our process, it started to tune me into that I might make a device at a particular frequency and then send it through shipment or even into daily life with one of my customers. And then it might degrade over time because crystals can be impregnated with frequency. And so we had to deal with that. And of course, there's such the bombardment of EMF these days. Like if people aren't structuring water, I think this is really helpful information. Like if you're not choosing the energetics of your water, it's being chosen for you, right? So 5G is the structuring of your water if you're not structuring with something more conscious, like prayer or crystals or something like the device we have. Like there's lots of things on the spectrum that make better water. So we've had this logo like this. Hopefully that's coming through pretty clear for quite a while. But we realized when we added this infinity sign, this 8 to the bottom, that we actually got a better outcome with regard to EMFs. And then we learned that each device, when it comes through our manufacturing process, has its own energetics, because this is not paint or lacquer or something like this. This is minerals that adhere on their own, like through a living, growing process, to the outside of the device. So the color and the streaking and whatnot of each device is as unique as our fingerprints or our eyes or so on and so forth. So we now hand measure every single device as it comes out of production to determine the balance point of that individual device. And then we apply the logo in the point that balances that device. So we're creating a living system. But then we started taking those and mailing them to the team and mailing them back to each other. And we sent these devices all over the country. And we're finding out they're not keeping a consistent result all the time. Some are, some aren't. And well, what do we need to do about that? And that's when we realized we needed to create a stand. I don't have one on my desk here.
I have one here.
Oh, you got it. There it is. Perfect.
Yeah. That way people can see.
Yeah, a little higher. Your camera's a little higher. There you go. That's where it is. Yeah, so you see the circles in the big circle. So that thing looks so simple. It took a year to create that thing. It drove me nuts. Just nuts. And because we kept getting inconsistent results. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a very consistent result. And so what you do is you take the funnel side of the device and you put it on your disc when you're not using it. And we actually, one of the members of our team was like a bulldog or a bloodhound on the idea that, well, if you put this on that, it's going to create a radiant energy field. And he has measured that it actually goes out several feet in every direction. So putting your device onto your disc is how we ensure that what we spent all that time creating stays at that frequency when it's in your home and in your daily life. So if you go hiking and you want to take that with you, take it with you. Leave the disc at home. Don't sweat it. We do not need to be perfectionists. Just like the point that you made when you're coming out of a fire and you've been fighting this heat and you're thirsty and somebody offers you water in a plastic bottle, you say, God bless you, thank you, and you drink it and you hydrate yourself with the greatest amount of joy you probably have over any water, like in that moment. And so, I started this company to get rid of plastic water bottles on Earth. And sometimes I buy a plastic water bottle because my hydration is senior to being a purist about not drinking it out of the water bottle. So you do the best you can. So if you go hiking, you do the best you can with your vibration. You know what? You're already in nature. You're already moving your body. You're being super healthy. You're going to be okay. Likewise, some people say, well, what about tea? And I'm like, well, if you hold this and pour boiling water to it, you're going to burn your hand, right? Because copper conducts like really, really fast, and that will get super hot and it'll burn you. So do I pour tea water through my structured water device? No, I don't. I just pour my tea and drink it. And I get thanks for my tea. And sometimes some people will take a little room temperature water and pour a tiny bit into their tea on top, because a few drops of the structured water will structure the whole thing. Some people have a cosmic tower in their home, and so the whole home is structured anyway. Good enough is good enough. We don't need the standard of perfect. So essentially, what we've created is a highly attuned device that is carrying a frequency, that's carrying the energetics of love and unity, even if people don't understand resonance that well yet. Some do, some don't. You can imbue a product like this to carry a resonance, and the resonance we're after is natural, and it's loving unity, such that we support water's efforts to uplift our species. And we do that by giving the water a natural way to be. And you get that by flowing through a device that is natural. That's what our device is. It has 33 crystals inside, and all of the water that goes through, every drop, when it hits a crystal, it either has to go left or right. Like, it has to go around each crystal. So some of the water chooses this pattern, while other water chooses that pattern. And so you end up with a double vortex, or water spinning in both directions at both times. And that vortex is a very, very powerful aspect of structuring water. There are many ways to structure water. And I would suggest, after 15 years of being loyal to the people and what impacts our lives the most, that people have a dialogue in the culture out there about, is water structured or unstructured? I have a different take on that, which is that all water is structured. The question is it structured toward chaos or toward harmony? And so if you're not making an energetic choice, then your computer, your phone, the 5G waves, they're all taking your water toward chaos. Now, if you pray over your water, some of us are pretty pure of thought, and some of us are doing our best, and some of us might be really enlightened. Prayer takes us toward harmony. A crystal next to your water takes us toward harmony. Everything that you're doing, I have one of Eileen McCusick's sound forks here, or a tuning fork, that takes us toward harmony. Whatever you're doing to create harmony in yourself while living in your modern home, keeping your convenience, and then taking you toward harmony, that takes you towards structuring the water in yourself and in your home toward harmony. And for me, the Aqua Energizer is the furthest I know how to get up the harmonized scale. So, we all get busy, we all get stressed, we all have stuff going on, and we're not always mindful and reverent about water with every glass that we drink. So the beauty of the Aqua Energizer is, if you take the handheld one, which we sell like 9 of these compared to one of the others, like this is the most popular by far. And when you stop and pour water through here into your container, right? So it goes from a faucet into the glass like this. If you just take that moment to be thankful for your water, bring that gratitude that you love so much, Ryan, and such a great practice in that moment, then you create high vibrating water with this. And so this is the only device anybody ever needs from us to get high vibrating water if they resonate with it. But if you want convenience, then you can install a whole house device or a shower device or an under sink device or a garden device, and you can just turn on a faucet and have the water come out that way and not have to hand hold it. So all the other devices are about convenience. This is the one you have to have because this one goes with you everywhere and we all move around. So that's why this one's the most popular. So that's pretty thorough, but yeah, what comes
Yeah.
up? What comes up for you? Got any
Yeah,
refinements?
one thing I'd love to learn more about is how and what goes into that disk that you store it on that
Yeah,
makes it important. And then I would love to hear your perspective on copper and what that can do when you, like, I drink out of a copper mug quite often.
yeah.
And what's the reasoning for that in your perspective? I've read quite a bit and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I need to drink out of copper more often, but then there's people that say that's bad for you. So curious about the copper thing. And then how do you store water, and like what would be the ideal ways and practical ways to store water and to drink out of for water?
Okay, cool. I noticed your copper cup. That's great. It's a lot of people do that. You know, it has anti microbial and bacterial properties. It's an Ayurvedic tool, and I think it's a beautiful way of bringing honor to water. And I think there's a lot of mythology about copper out there, and nobody better to learn from than Morley Robbins at the Root Cause Protocol. And if you haven't interviewed him yet, I'd be happy to make an introduction. That man has gone deep. He's basically a researcher, and what he has determined is the balance between copper and iron in our bodies that is so responsible for mitochondrial health. And copper is way better for us than we know. Morley often appears on the You're the Cure broadcast with Dr. Ben Edwards that I mentioned earlier. And so I got the chance when I was living in Texas for that time to meet Morley and go to dinner with them a couple of times. And yeah, I learned a lot from that guy. So copper is like really beneficial. And if people have any concerns that it's not or aren't well versed enough, go study with Morley. Like Morley's got it going on. Um, in terms of carrying the water and taking it with you, I favor glass except when I need stainless steel, right? So glass.
Mm-hmm.
So when I show up for an interview, I don't ever want to run out of water. So I have two. It's easy, because if I didn't have two, I'd be wondering when this conversation was going to end. Because speaking is a dehydrating mechanism. It's
Mm-hmm.
the histamine reaction, and we lose water as we speak, and so it's important to keep hydrating when we talk. And so apply that now to the glass and the stainless, and then raising four kids. And what I've determined is that I hang a cloth reusable shopping bag off the back of the driver's seat headrest in my cars. And then I take a 1 gallon glass bottle and I hang it there so it doesn't hit the floor or anything. And that's our water supply. And I never leave home without that. So I have three of those in the house, and I make sure that I'm constantly keeping them filled up. So there's always one to go put in the car when we're leaving. And then depending on where I'm going and like whether if it's vigorous in any kind of way, stainless steel bottle goes out of the glass into the stainless steel, and I drink it. I never run out. It's such a key to hydration is to never run out. And so I've just learned that like I always have water like right here, and glass would be my preference. So I got two parts of your question. Then there was one more part. You remember what it was?
The disc and how you created it
I,
and why it's so
yeah,
important.
it's so interesting creating that disc. There were so many designs, and creating an energetic tool is complicated, especially when it's coming out of imagination. Like we knew what we needed to get, and I have these really amazing people in my life. Like you've interviewed Nico, and Nico really loves playing with energy, and I don't. I just want it to work, and I don't want to be the testing guy, and I don't want to be the experimenter, and to the point that it gets in my way. So Nico was actually here a year and a half ago, and it was like the design's going to carry the energetic of whoever is working on it. And we just kept having these versions that wouldn't work. And I kept not being involved in the drawing of the design. And I finally realized when we got that design that we were never going to finish the project until I did the drawing. And so even though there was a prototype, the prototype needed to have my energy involved in it. And so finally, like, I was in a really great place energetically in Asheville, North Carolina. I was getting network spinal alignments for 2 days. And I, in between my alignments, went and took pieces. I had like a whole stack of paper and a pen, and I was drawing. You have to draw the circles in the right direction, and you have to draw the whole and then the inside in the right direction. And so I spent the in between my sessions that day drawing circles, and there need to be 16 inside, and I kept doing it and getting 15. And like it
Mm.
was Ryan, it was so annoying. And I just kept after it, and I didn't complete it that day. And I was like, okay, another one of those things. I'm like, all right, water, I'm going to sleep. Like, you do what you got to do. And I got up the next morning and I draw it, and I was like, I got 16, but it wasn't quite right. And then I did it a second time, and I was like, I finally drew the design. And so I took a photo of it and I sent it to the guy that was working on it. And he's like, okay. And then he made some prototypes and we sent them out to the team, and they measured and they're like, we got our design. So the idea is that tool is so much more sophisticated than the piece of plexiglass that it's cut on, and that how we etch it on there and the direction that we move and the order we start from and where we finish is of the essence. And that to me, like, goes back to that dream. Like, numbers become matter, numbers become shapes, and shapes become matter. That's how creator creates. There's an
Mm.
underlying mathematical order and shape to this world. And we have tapped into that with that design, even if I went reluctantly.
I love that. Yeah, I've been interested in a lot of that sacred geometry stuff for years, and I have all kinds of really cool stuff around me all the time that has beautiful, intelligent design built within it. And I can never get it. Like, if I'm out in the world and someone has a beautiful piece on a necklace or something, it's like it's capturing, and it makes everybody stop for a moment and look, and it's just interesting. And so I love ancient sites and monuments, and you go out into nature and you can see things like you went to Sedona when you were here last. And if you just go away from the city and get out into nature, you can get to these natural vortices. And Sedona pretty much is one. And if when you're in Maui, you can feel it. There's different places, energy fields on the planet, as you know. And I tell people that are skeptics, go be a skeptic. Just go there and sit and see what happens. You don't have to see anything profound. It can just be subtle, but it's powerful stuff. And I love that you're building it into products that bring it into the water. That's the life force that we are. And I really appreciate it. And I really love this cosmic tower too. It's been something really cool to have in my home.
Before you go there, I want to tell one of my favorite Sedona stories.
Yeah, please.
I used to stay with a guy named Kenji Kumara when I went there. He's a spiritual teacher. And my friend Artemis came, and Artemis and I went out for a hike one day. And we intended to go out to Boynton Canyon and go for like a long hike. And when we got to the parking lot, we were called to go up to Warrior Rock. And we didn't know it was Warrior Rock. We just knew we didn't want to go on our long hike anymore. And we only wanted to go like 100 yards to this rock formation. So we went to the rock formation and like, well, this is cool. What are we doing here? And I was like, well, you want to go up it? And he's like, yeah. And it's like 35, 40 feet. It's not that high. And I was like, well, I want to go up it too, but I'm really scared. He's like, I'm scared too. I'm like, all right, well, let's do this together. And so we got ourselves up to the first level. There's like 4 levels of Warrior Rock. And we were terrified. And we just sat there, like we hunkered down and like felt fear, and we just were processing together, like, God, I'm scared. We got up to the next level. I was like, how you doing? He's like, terrified. I'm shitting my pants. I'm like, me too. And like, this is really bad. And the hiking's really like, it's not that intense, but for some reason, we're just having this massive thing of fear and being scared. So we finally get up to the top, and then this dude with a guitar like hops on up next to us, and Artemis has I don't know what they call them, geckos that are there in Sedona, but whatever the little lizard dude is, has like come and sat on his knee, and we got the guitar dude, and we're like singing Kumbaya songs together and like doing our thing, We had our little moment together. So we go home and we're like, Kenji, man, we had the craziest experience today. Like, we wanted to go for this big hike, and we just got exhausted by going 35 feet up on the 4 levels of this. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's Warrior Rock. It's designed to bring your fears out.
That's interesting.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like that's what that formation does. And we lived the experience. So I had the really great privilege to go to a place in Boulder called the Star House this past year on our Cosmic Tower road trip. And the Star House was built 35 years ago. Like they took this, I think it's 35 or 55 acres, and they built this structure based on sacred geometry. And the first time I went, they had this double tetrahedron swing. And I looked at it and I was like, I need to go on that. And so I went back to Boulder to go on the swing. And it literally, like, I was with 6 people, and we were having a brainstorm session about developing some endeavors together. And going on that swing silenced me so much that I didn't talk for like 45 minutes, which that doesn't happen much. And we're like brainstorming, and these like 5 people are like popping like popcorn. And I'm like, so we're inside now in one of the physical structures, and I know my voice is missing in the conversation. And as we're walking between rooms, I hear, if you stand there, your part of the conversation will happen. So I went and stood exactly where I was guided to stand. And the 2 people who were talking changed the topic to the part that I was supposed to say, because we knew each other. And they start saying it to each other while looking at me to check and see if I got it right. I'm like, yeah, that's it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was one of the most powerful sacred geometry experiences I've had in my life. And what I'm saying is, in personal lived experience, that shape and structure determine content. It was the most magical of experiences to see that other people would say what I needed to say because I stood in the right place.
That's amazing.
It was a really extraordinary experience. So these things do exist. And so if you think about why we're all so stressed and freaked in our lives, the modern culture, like I was outside at before sunrise the other day, and I heard the machines and the sounds of our modern society come online as the garbage trucks came and dumped, and the roost in Maui, there are a lot of roosters that crow at early morning, and the roosters came on. And then, the guy with the pickup truck that goes, like he got up and started going to work, and it came online. And I'm like, all these shapes and sounds are chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why we're all so chaotic. And now we can talk about the Cosmic Tower, right? Because like we've got this dialogue going of like harmony and chaos as what we live in. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to start the Cosmic Tower conversation, or I just did, but
yeah, no, I would love for you to describe for the audience what is a cosmic tower a little bit. You don't have to spend an hour on it, but enough for them to get the general gist of the idea. And before I forget, because I'm wondering if you would ever or have ever considered creating some sort of like harness or something for this to go under a water dispenser where it could just click in there or hook on there or something. That would be sort of cool, because I'm actually going to make one myself. And then you could just leave it on there, and it would just be pouring straight from that spigot to the glass that I have.
Yeah.
and I could just like sink it into a little hole. Just an idea, but maybe you've already worked something out or have already thought about it.
We haven't done that. Like it's been a labor of love to get us to where we are right now. Like literally in the next 7 days, our custom boxes are showing up, and we got our velvet bags to hold it, and then we got our disc, and then we have these little scrubbies in there now. Um, and the scrubby is to keep, if the water will cause oxidation in here, and that is discoloration for some people, and
Hmm.
some people don't want to see discoloration in their funnel. So you just rub your scrubby around, and you can keep this really shined up and nice. So it's been a long time to get to this week,
Yeah.
and
Cool.
we're nailing it, but we're ready for that next. So since you already know where you're going with creating something like that, it like create it for all of us, man. Like let's do
Cool.
it. Let's see what you
Yeah.
come up with.
Yeah, because I have an engineer friend who could probably make a little prototype for you once I
let's
give him one of these. So
let's do it. I'm
cool.
totally up for having that conversation. That's amazing.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Cosmic Tower.
Yeah, so here we were running a structured water company for 10 years, and along comes Nico Martins, who'd been a friend of the company for about 6 or 7 years, and he said, I found this thing called the Cosmic Tower. Would you like to lay it on top of the wellness enterprise and marry structured water in a different way? And I was like, yeah, I'm really interested in that. So he went off to Europe and he met Harold Tiers in person, and they got along really well. Harold was a mechanical engineer who was sick, and he couldn't figure out how to get himself healthy. So he spent 15 years developing that device. And his son came into this life clairvoyant. And so his son reminded him that the reason the father was a mechanical engineer and the son was clairvoyant was so they could cooperate on creating an energetic tool that would harmonize spaces and allow people to be healthy. So we have all that chaos of all that noise and all the distorted shapes in the world. The cosmic tower takes a really high grade of water, which is the combination of two perfect springs that create a full frequency, full spectrum rainbow water. And they create a toroidal field where that water spins subatomically in your space. So, right behind my computer that I'm seeing you on right now, I have a cosmic tower that's 7 or 8 inches tall. I have one that's 15 inches tall. I have one that's 30 inches tall. And I have one that's 8 feet tall. And each one of them is attuned to a different purpose. So, like I see the one back in the corner of your room there, and that looks like it's the 15-inch tall one, the 35 as we call it. And that one's really attuned for a single family home and for an individual relationship. Whereas the 8 foot tall one that I have here is attuned to nature as a whole. So, one of my experiences was Nico came to visit and he's like, it was after the fires in Lahaina. And he says, Merlin is the name of my Maui 8 foot tall tower. So Merlin, the Maui magician is my name of reference. And he's like, have you directed Merlin to remediate the toxicity of the Lahaina fires? And I was like, no. He's like, why not? I'm like, I didn't think of it. So thank God for the people that think of these things and inspire us. And, I have this really interesting little aspect of my physicality where right back here about 20 years ago, even longer now, 25, 30 years ago, started tingling if I got exposed to toxicity. So if I got a tingle here, I learned turn around and move away quickly. So every time I thought about going to Lahaina after the fires, the back of my head would tingle, and I was like, I'm not going. And so I put Merlin on remediating, and then like a couple months later, I thought about going to Lahaina, no tingle. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Like I can go to Lahaina now. So the big ones are here to help attune nature as a whole so that we can reclaim harmony for our species on this earth. And the smaller ones are designed for living in a home and as we move about. And essentially they just create a harmonic energy field. And some of our customers structure their water simply with a cosmic tower. Some of them choose an Aqua Energizer, some of them choose both. I personally think the more that I can do to create harmony in my life, the better. There's certainly more than enough opportunity for chaos. So I'll take every bit of harmony I can get. So, I've got all four here in the living room, and then I've got three more in the bedroom. I'm also,
Wow,
I'm also the CEO of the company. So, you know,
that's awesome. Yeah,
I'm going to do
it's
that.
really cool. Yeah, and I think it was the Way Forward podcast did a really nice interview with Nico. I had one too, but I really enjoyed the way that he held that conversation. So if people want to learn about Cosmic Tower and all of the stuff we're talking about, I'd go to the Way Forward podcast with Alec and Nico, and or just go check out mine. But I really loved that one. So
It was a good one.
um,
That one really changed things. Like Alex got a really wonderful reach. He's got such a important voice in our world for freedom and for understanding. And and Nico and Alex seem to have like the cosmic chemistry of past lives in Egypt together, or that kind of brotherhood. So they made a really beautiful conversation together for sure.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, I would love to ask you the question of if you were going to die today, this was your last day here on the planet, what would you say to the world?
That's a great question. Um, I would say that water carries the information for our redemption. Water is alive and conscious, and it is so utterly and completely patient with us. It never complains. We fill it full of chlorine, and when it meets air, it just lets the chlorine back out. It's so extraordinary. It's 99% of your molecules. It's the majority of our entire dimension that we live in. And if you'll simply change your relationship with water, you'll open the door. Because once water gets a hold of you and your attunement starts to allow its communication in, then it can take us anywhere and everywhere. So my hope for the reclamation of love and joy for humanity comes simply through trusting the individuality that you are, that you're perfect the way you are, and that if you will align that in water with nature, we will remember together the pathway out of what we've gotten ourselves into. That's what we're capable of. So let's do that, whether I'm here tomorrow or not.
I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to share, or any resources to send people to for your stuff, and also maybe even some cool books or resources for people to learn about water?
Yeah, sure. Books about water. I've had dozens and dozens and dozens of them. Some favorites: Dr. Batman or Batman Hullage wrote Your Body's. It's been a minute since I said the title. You're not sick. You're not sick. You're thirsty. Your body's many cries for water. If you look up Dr. Batman water, you'll get there. The hidden messages in water from Dr. Emoto would be another great one. Dancing with Water, MJ Pangman is another one. I like videos too. So anything with Veda Austin, like it's just. I think the world has a little crush on Veda. Like she's just magnificent. So she's really fun to watch. Um, and Dr. Pollack's book for the science minded. He's written a couple now, but the one that came out in 2013 is called The Fourth Phase of Water. I'm not much of a scientist myself, so I absorbed that by hugging it while I took naps for the summer of the year that it came out. Those are some of my favorites. So those are the books. And what was the second part of?
I guess where would people find your stuff? I know the Wellness Enterprise and
Yeah. So we're a simple company. We don't do brochures. We don't like to print things. We don't like to waste resources. We have an environmental bent. So we just put everything on the wellnessenterprise.com. So it's got the word "the" at the beginning, the wellnessenterprise.com, and we have a wonderful free ebook on there for teaching people from Dr. Zach Bush and Christian Northrup and Tom Cowan, like some famous doctors, about like why structured water is so important. That's a great resource. We have a excellent resource in our library for people who are interested in alkaline water. The ebook's called Beyond Alkaline Water. We have a YouTube channel, an Instagram channel. We really love to make content and teach. We have a whole page about Dr. Emoto's work. I think you'll find if you go on thewellnessenterprise.com, you can learn more about structured water than you knew might even exist.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to share today, Patrick? It's been really fun connecting with you and learning more about your journey.
Ryan, I just want to underline that I think what we're doing in this conversation is how we change the world. Like, it's an application of our life force in unity that makes sense to me. That, like, changing the world isn't some thing where we like get more power over and then we like fly our planes and fight their planes. Like, that's not it. It's like, hey brother, can we create harmony with each other? And can we have respect for differences and curiosity about learning? And can we share ideas with ease and grace and be open to becoming a more clear, more aligned version of ourselves through dialogue? So, with you and me, it's pretty easy, right? Because, we met, we like each other, we see similar things in each other. Let's talk like that. But now we have an audience interacting with this content, and some of them might be like 100% aligned with us, and some of them might be like 5% aligned with us. And so, the question for the people, like wherever you are, is okay with me. Can you be open to new ideas and becoming somebody different? Like, can you allow the miraculous to come into your life? Because I didn't always know how to be part of this conversation, and I've become it over time. Maybe you want to expand who you are and become somebody different over time. Let's just be open with each other, and let's just realize that humans are great. And if we just show ourselves the values of wanting, loving unity and being open to each other and having respect, it's enough. Like, that's going to carry the day over time.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I think that would be good advice for the future, is have human beings be more curious instead of judgmental, and try to be around people that don't necessarily think like you and be okay with that, and see that the uniqueness of the human expression is so cool, And I really believe that each one of us is looking through these tiny little different straws or dimensions, but it's cool when you can get at someone else's perspective. And even if you don't resonate or understand it, sort of be still in awe of it, because it is cool that they came to that way of being. So I love that. I really do. And I do look forward to connecting with you again as the future unfolds too. So that'll be awesome.
me too. Thanks so much for inviting me to this and having this conversation with me. I really enjoyed it, Ryan.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. And I will put links in the show notes for everybody. And there will be a little code to go to your guys' site and buy these devices. And so I appreciate you, and we'll keep in touch.
Sounds good. All right. Take care, my friend.
Thank you for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it and subscribe to the show and rate the show. That helps people to discover it. And enjoy the next episode.
What we call reality is in fact nothing more than a culturally sanctioned and linguistically reinforced hallucination of some sort.